Sunday, April 14th, 2024. Welcome back to another episode of the Honeycomb Podcast. Today, we're joined by Hawk Crypto Mining, a longtime member of the Hivemapper community. What would we classify the YouTubers as? I know we have the Believer badge on the Hivemapper Discord. We're ambassadors, or so to speak, based on the private channel that we're in, but we've all been showcasing the Hivemapper project to our community for a long time. So I want to bring some YouTubers on, talk about their experience, how their community has been receiving and enjoying the Hivemapper project. Real quick before we get into all this, of course, none of this is intended to be financial advice. You should consult with a trusted professional before you act on any of the information you may hear in the stream. And our opinions do not reflect the official opinions of Hivemapper Inc. or the Hivemapper Foundation. And we're going to get into some of the news after we do the introductions. I do want to talk about the issues with Solana as of right now, some of the app updates to the system, and two latest proposals. But we'll start off with the introduction. So, Brad, would you briefly give an introduction?
Sure. Bradley Meyer with the Deep Pin Connection out of Chicago. This is our fourth episode at this point, so you all probably know me. Is it third?
Yeah.
Okay. Third episode. Sorry. I've been in crypto space for a handful of years now and really got my feet wet with Helium and built out a host model there. With, I still have about 70 rooftop installs, and Hivemapper fleets about to be up to right around 80 and 100 by probably end of next month. And also building out Demo. So I've got over 200 vehicles connected to Demo at this point. Do a little bit with WeatherXM and small scale, some other deep in projects, and also cover a lot of those projects on my channel. I do some deep dives on there. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet.
Yeah. So you guys know me, Joe from Network Bits YouTube channel. Cover mostly projects in the deep in space. Been network engineer 11 years now, and try to really deep dive into crypto projects and kind of represent the people, help everyone to understand how the mechanics behind the system work, and bring these projects to you regularly. And I'd like to introduce my friend Hawk Crypto Mining, one of the first people I brought into Hivemapper. I back when I'm forgetting his name, Alan. He brought me in, and I've said to him, I'm going to bring you the best YouTubers. And I said, hey, who's interested in this? Hawk was one of the first people to say, I like it. I'm going to do it. And I'm glad to have him here on the podcast with us, Hawk.
Thanks for having me.
Background on yourself and do your plug on Terra hosting.
Yeah. So my name is Mike, but everyone, my channel, Hawk Crypto, and man, I got a long story, but I'll keep it short. So I got into crypto mining in 2021. Was law enforcement full time for 8 years, 7 years, and I got into it, learned a lot. Started my own hosting company. I failed after the merge. There was a lot of problems. A lot of people lost after the merge, and then kind of got into this whole YouTube thing. Got into Misfit Mining, met Chump Change, DJ Mines. Kind of really rolled me into it, and and then started to make all these connections and different people and talking to everybody, and then met Joe some years later, and a year later, and me and Joe became friends, and it started introducing me to all these projects. I started a hosting company with GPUrisers.com, which this was not planned, but I'm drinking out of his cup. But me and him started Terra hosting out of what I had from the clients that I started with, and it's been great, man. We're going on 3 facilities now, and it's doing pretty good, so can't complain. It got a data center. We're running a bunch of machine learning stuff as well, and it's crazy how fast it went in 3 years. But so it's basically everything in a nutshell. I really did enjoy working with Hivemapper and doing all that stuff. And I understand there's been a change of guard in Hivemapper, so definitely want to talk about it a little bit, because from where it started to where it is now, I feel like the company is just a little different. But that's a little background on me.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it. Your website, terrahosting.io.
Yep, terrahosting.io.
I'll leave that in the comment section for those of you who want to check it out. But yeah, definitely subscribe to Hawk. I left his URL to his channel in the description, and go ahead, subscribe to the other Misfit Miners. Hawk does quite a few live streams throughout the week, occasionally on his channel every Saturday night as well, with Chump Change, Mining King, Max, Geek of All Trades, and also subscribe to his partners, GPU Risers.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Great guy. Glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
we'll talk about your experience with this in a little bit. There are a few things I want to get right out of the way for those who are watching, based on what we're seeing within. Within the Hivemapper system. So many of you have been seeing the issues with Solana congestion. And what we're seeing right now is there's a new project on Solana that's really heavy when it comes to what are called RPC,
right?
Remote procedure calls, which is really how you would send transactions to the blockchain. And the way it was broken down to me from Retro Mike, who's typically very accurate in the way he describes things, so I take it at face value from him. But he's saying that there aren't really a lot of RPC server endpoints to make calls on, so the vast majority of the centralized applications on Solana are using that same server. And this ore mining, it was extremely profitable at one point, and that's what caused all this congestion immediately. He said something like every couple milliseconds, an ore miner does an RPC to the Solana blockchain. So, Solana is supposed to handle whatever it was. And it's not so much the transactions, it's just the communication endpoints. So the immediate alleviation to this issue would be more RPC endpoints.
Right.
And this is something I did recommend to Ariel, is that Hivemapper gets their own private RPC server for the Hivemapper system. I'm not sure what the details are behind the scenes as far as what Hivemapper is doing, but hopefully this helps to alleviate the issues with the Hivemapper payouts and transactions that we're seeing. This would explain why many of the rewards payouts are coming 5 days later than normal, other than there are significantly more rewards payouts that are being done as of today versus a month ago, 10 months ago, over a year ago, etc. So that's kind of the rundown on why we're seeing the slow transactions as of right now. Another thing I wanted to point out, you may have seen the update to the Hivemapper app, where I know some people have been complaining that a lot of their imagery is disappearing immediately. It's not being updated, which is, let me try to break it down, where now we're doing edge processing with the Hivemapper dash cams. When your camera takes all that imagery before it's ready to be downloaded to your phone, then updated, it internally in your camera, it sorts through the pictures and it removes all the ones that have issues, windshield wipers, or let's say your camera fell or it's blurry. It removes those, and then it blurs out what is not supposed to be for privacy reasons in that picture. So it blurs out faces, blurs out other cars, etc. Then it is added to the queue to be downloaded. This takes an extended amount of time. And you'll see on the app, top left corner, if it says like 6 minutes, 20 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever it may be, your camera has to kind of sit idly and process those until it's ready to be downloaded. So if you don't get all those processed and downloaded by the Tuesday following the Sunday of that week, then those are seen as stale imagery and they're just shot into oblivion, not uploaded. So you do want to leave your camera on for an extended period of time. There's two ways you can really do this to process them. Leave your car on is one option. During the night when it's not taking imagery, you can actually just let it process while you're driving. Otherwise, you can bring it inside, hook it up to a battery pack, or you can hook it up to a charger that has a it would be the same voltage and similar or higher amperage that that adapter has to be. So you have to let it process. Long story short, then it downloads and uploads. And this has all been outlined in the Hivemapper Discord, the reasons behind doing so. Another thing you may have noticed is the reputation score. If you were to look on the app, it'll rate your camera mount either 4 out of 4, 3 out of 4, 2 out of 4, 1 out of 4. So long story short, you really want to focus on your camera mount being adequate. If you were to mount it forward facing, the way it's been described by the official Hivemapper, the moderators and foundation members, is it's better to have a little bit more. You don't want the hood being more than 10% of your actual view, but you'd rather have it facing down just a little bit where you can see the hood. That's not going to count against you as long as it's not more than 10%. But you want to get as much of the road as possible, and try to eliminate any factors that are within your control. Any sort of blurs from stuff that you might have on the dash, like if you have excessive items on your dash for decorations, those are something you might want to remove. Of course, keep your windshield clean. No feet up on the dashboard. Make sure your camera's mounted upright, the B's facing up, etc. So as long as you're getting a 4 out of 4 score, you'll get the amount of rewards that you're supposed to receive. Otherwise, you do get dinged on rewards. All that. You guys want to briefly jump into the improvement proposals. I don't think these latest ones are anything that's too significant. I know you did have something you want to jump in on 15, Brad, but 14 is really just it relates to the scoring, the progress score of the region, and it makes it a little bit harder to bring up that progress score. And overall, look, I didn't crunch the numbers or run them extensively. I did read through the chat in the Discord, which I recommend that everyone do if you're interested. But just from a base feel of how I'm monitoring the surrounding regions and how I'm able to just a feel of how much I drive through some of the small regions and how I'm able to kick those scores up pretty significantly every week. I do think this is a better update. It's going to reflect better when it comes to the rewards overall, but that total progress score when it relates to the multiplier.
Yeah. I mean, it's a natural progression of the project, right? As more people are mapping, you should be able to get better coverage. And the reward should be tied to that. My question is, it's going to be interesting to see how these multipliers change in some of these regions. Like Chicago, is it going to stay a 3x, for example? That's really where you're going to see the difference, I think, is some of these regions that have been getting 3x, maybe they drop to a 2x, or, that's going to definitely have an impact on rewards. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you guys. This is more of an education thing for myself too, because whenever I have a Hivemapper question, I go ask Joe. I just like, hey man, so what's up with this? And he gives me a good explanation. But I started to pay a little bit more attention, but I did notice like rewards were getting cut a little bit. I definitely saw a reduction from when we first started to now, and I know there's been a couple MIPs through that, but
Sure.
Yeah, so let's talk about that briefly. And we've all seen sort of a reduction in rewards across the board, but there's several contributing factors. Some of them, so the numerous regions being added.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a global rewards pool, which is then broken down by the regional rewards pool, and the regional rewards pool are divided up by the contributors in that region per week. So with thousands of regions that have been added to include basically all mappers. Last time there was numbers run, there's only about 3 or 4 contributors without an actual dedicated region for them. But of course, that further causes that global rewards pool to be divided amongst more regions. So it's taken another, basically we all have to share the pie, and more regions, smaller pieces of pie for each region, right? The other one is because we have all these new regions, there's what's called a global map progress score,
Right.
which is what dictates how many tokens are emitted for that given week. So if the global map overall is progressing faster, there's more rewards put out globally, which are then divided up between the regions. There's less. If the score is less, there's less rewards. And we are seeing that the score, because of all these newer regions, that score is on average becoming a bit less. So there's less rewards put out. Of course, now there's more cameras on the road. We're sharing amongst more individuals when in our own dedicated regions, which does contribute to why we're seeing lower overall personal rewards for each of us. But
Right.
that makes sense in the manner that I'm explaining it.
Yeah, it's hard to diagnose though what's causing, because my rewards are definitely down a bit, but it's hard to diagnose what the actual issue is, because yes, the regions being added have a factor, but we've also had a lot of issues with the recent firmware updates. So
Right.
it's really hard to determine like what's actually the main culprit. But I think the regions being added should eventually levelize, because there's only so many regions they can add. They've added a lot. I think that'll slow down over time. Will it get to a point where it's not worth it anymore? I mean, look, it depends on the vibe, like how successful you think the project will be. Because I started on day one. For a long time, we were earning honey at 1.5 cents, and a lot of people at that point thought it wasn't worth it. I had drivers that gave me back dash cams at that point. Now they wish they'd kept them, but I think a lot of it depends on whether we see this bull run we're hoping for.
Right.
And what the price of honey does. If we get to 50 cents, in the future, I'm not saying that's going to happen. All of a sudden, these rewards look a lot better, right? Obviously, we've had quite a correction in the crypto space the last couple of days. So especially people that are newer to crypto that aren't used to seeing this stuff, they're probably freaking out. But these corrections are very normal, even in a bull run. I think you kind of have to stay the course, and it's really a question of whether you believe the project is going to be successful or not. If it is successful and they start driving meaningful revenue, well, the price of honey should, in theory, follow. So, I'll tell you, I'm adding 20 more cameras to my fleet like later today. So,
Jeez.
I'm still building.
Yeah. Holy cow, 20 cameras.
What's your thoughts on that, Hawk? When people say, is it still worth it? How do you qualify that sort of question?
I think you got to look at the risk versus reward. So when I talk about Hivemapper, like on a live stream, I talk more about the like the regions, right? But it seems like everywhere's a region now. So like when Joe first introduced me to the project, like I live in South Florida, so the whole state, this whole southern part of the state was a region. So I knew that the rewards would be good here. So I figured it was worth a try. But when I was, live streaming a lot of this stuff, sorry, I have a 1-year-old that's crawling around. I would tell people like, hey, if you're not in a region, maybe not a good idea yet, because maybe the rewards will be lower. But honestly, like it's just like anything else. Timing is everything. You get in early to these projects and you do well. Is it worth it? I mean, if look, it's a gamble, right? If Hivemapper gets the adoption and there's a lot of companies buying the data, it's going to drive the price to go up. It's going to drive the rewards to go up, or increase slightly in certain areas. Then yeah, it's worth it. But with anything in crypto, whether it's DPIN or proof of work, proof of stake, or whatever it is, there's always a risk, right? So, if you're going to spend 500 on a Hivemapper, and I say this to anybody that gets involved in crypto or crypto mining or anything like that, if you're going to get involved with anything in crypto, if it's $500 for a dash cam, prepare to lose the $500. If you make money on it, then that's a win, right? But if it's money you could throw away and try it. There are people who have won, like my buddy Matt Electron Engineering. He is a truck driver, and for him, he loved it. I got him introduced to Alan, and he's got 2 of them now, and he loves it. I saw one guy your friend Andy had one of his viewers pay for his whole wedding with Hivemapper. So I mean, like, are the rewards good? Yeah, I think the rewards will increase. They seem to be getting a lot of adoption. They seem to be getting a lot of companies that want the data because they're increasing the regions in every part of the world. Like Malaysia blew up, right? Like I know there was a few places like Europe was like a little bit of blue, and now it's all over the place. And I'll be on, or not blue, sorry, pink. And when you look at the map, it looks like a cellular map across the United States now. Like yeah. it was so like small. It was like in select regions. So
I think if at any point you need to take a break or dip out, Hawk, just let us know. I'll pull you back to the studio. And
sorry, no, I had a 90-pound German Shepherd and a 1-year-old running around my thing. So
but to your point, so in year 2023, we did see a pretty significant token burn when it came to paying customers. Now this has really dropped off. We're starting to see it pick back up ever so slightly. We're wondering, what the context behind this was. And it seems like there were some companies that were really interested in demoing for this mapping data. And of course, if you take a look at the regular announcements, you see where the bursts are, the honey bursts, where you have extra tokens to incentivize drivers to map a specific area. We have to assume most of those are paying customers that want some sort of updated data. And another thing I want to draw attention to is if you were to look in the official Hivemapper Discord in the MIP 15 discussion, which we'll get into briefly, but they talk about the burn and mint economics, where a company pays X amount of money to buy this imagery, how much is going to be burned in honey and how much is going to be recirculated and paid to those whose imagery was bought. So that, if you really to look and read between the lines and read some of what the official Hivemapper staff is posting in that discussion, you'll get some context between how customers are paying and what some of this data that we're looking at, the token metrics were for year 2023 when it comes to honey burn and the amount paid. But going back to that question, is it worth it? And I guess you have to define what worth it means, and whether you're looking for a consistent payout, or if you're someone who's like a speculative holder, are you going to hold it long term, wait for that price jump, or are you looking for a weekly payout? And how much are you really looking for to make it worth it? And I guess my whole thing is, there's a lot of moaning and bitching because so many people miss that, January and February were killer months. I mean, if you were to do active driving with a strategy, at one point I was making $100 an hour driving. Am I a little disappointed that that's no longer, that I can't just go out and map and make that kind of money? But that's the reality of these things, And I know the way Hawk and I, when we first came on, we were talking about this project. We were very conservative in our methods of pushing this. It's not so much about selling a camera and making $15 off of someone. It's more, is it worth it for them? And the way the system was set up at the time, it was, we were honest. A lot of people didn't see immediate value in it, but had I known it would have played out like this, I would have told everyone, get a dash cam, like you're gonna kill it in a couple months. But we didn't know it would play out like that. Right?
It's a risk, right? Like us as YouTubers, we get a hold of a project and we like it, and we kind of like, I always do it from and I learned from like a lot of other people, like Chump, DJ, and a few others, and you get a hold of a project and you just want to, as YouTubers, we just document our experience with it so much as not so much to shill the project, right? So, you know, I went through the setup, I went through like the first review, and then like 30 days later, like, and just to see, and in my area, it was crazy profitable in my area. So, you know, I was super like excited about it, and I was like calling Alan. I'm like, dude, you got to send me like another one. Like, I'll do another, like, you know, I'll do another video. Like, and I have two. Full disclosure and transparency. I have one that's in my fiance's car, and I have one that's in mine. And she travels the same route to work every day, and she's made like she's got to be like 2,300 in Solana. I traded all hers into Solana, right, when it pumped up to like 20 something cents, and it's crazy. Like, she's like, I can't, like, she never knew anything about crypto. Like, she knows I was involved, but she didn't know. And she's like, is this what you guys do? I'm like, yeah. Like, she goes, this is insane. And now, like, all her friends at work, like, ordered the new B and all this other stuff. So it kind of spiraled up. And, you know, my family owns a business too. So when they used to come to my family's restaurant, I would tell the Uber drivers, like, you guys got to check this out. Because Uber drivers, like, people who Uber, are really obviously trying to do it to make money. And why not? I think that's where a lot of adoption came from for Hivemapper, was like projects like Uber, Lyft, and, you know, DoorDash. These guys it made perfect sense for these people to go ahead and get this dash cam. It costs you a one upfront cost, virtually nothing to run. You plug it into a cigarette lighter, and you can make money on top of what you're doing. So, like, if you drove a lot, this was a great project. But sorry, I'm kind of getting off course. But
no, you're doing great. This is what we brought you on for, the insight from your perspective, particularly.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's accurate. Like, I mean, 80% of my fleet is Uber and Lyft drivers. That's like, I started pitching my Uber and Lyft drivers back when I put in my first pre-orders, because obviously they're on the road a lot. So, you know, at the very beginning, you could make a lot of honey just driving a small amount. But I think now it's going to really depend on how much you're driving. I mean, we've seen this with other projects too. The early stages, you're going to earn a lot, but then you really have to be efficient and be the kind of the optimal participant to really make the most of it. But even if you're making, you know, earning like 500 honey a week at current prices, was that $50 a week?
Yeah.
I mean, you're still breaking even pretty quickly on the hardware. And then then it comes down to a question of, how much involvement is there for you to participate?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how passive is it? Is it a pain in the ass? Is it worth it to you? For some people, it's probably worth it. Other people, maybe it's not, you know, but I still think if you're on the road a lot, if you're a truck driver, if you're an Uber, Lyft driver, delivery driver, it's absolutely worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the one key point that I wanted to elaborate on in all this. It's becoming less and less, passive with what, you know, the whole processing, waiting for it to download, having to download it, then uploading it. We should see some alleviation coming from that, especially from people who are hosting fleets when it comes to the new B dash cam. But what, you know, when you're making $50 a week off of doing very little work, and for what most people I think would be a fun sort of deal, you know, we all have struggles in this. We all have to navigate this course, but there's in the end, you are doing it to get paid. It kind of makes it, there's a sense of fun in it. I don't know about the audience. Not all of them are into that, but I think most of us here, you know, we have navigated quite a few different paths and different projects. And we always look back on that like, man, remember that time where we had to do this, we had to wait for the blockchain to sync, then we had to tune it, and we had, you know, that kind of stuff. That's been fun for us, and it's a learning experience. You learn how to navigate crypto. You come out with some value. But yeah, I always think like that $50 a week. Okay, you miss the, you know, the $100 an hour type of driving. Sucks,
it's
but
crazy
are you
that
really
it was up to that. It was up to that. Like, and when you told me about Hivemapper, like, I started to look at the map, and I thought we were like mad early. There was already people here doing it. Like, so there was people earlier than what we got in. Like, how did you know? You know what I mean? Like, I just like, thank you. Like, how I don't know. But
Oh yeah, well that's
you got to
a
stay on
great
top
point.
of it.
That's exactly it. And a lot of these people who are whining and crying now, it's like, what were you doing for this past year and a half when we were talking about it? When this, I wasn't the first one to find out. I knew because I hung around that whole Deepin crowd and heard about it. I don't know what's going on with my camera here. It's flickering. But anyways, that's what really gets me is like the complaining and whining, because it's like the whole FOMO and really getting into the emotions. It's like,
It happens with every
you have
project.
to, yeah,
Yep.
and you
with
really
every
have to be
project.
diligent about what's on your watch list. Like I'll create a list of 5-10 projects that I'm watching that I know are going to debut within the coming months, or that are just out, and see what develops. And
Right.
sometimes it's worth that gamble, like the whole region deal with Hivemapper, where it made it not really worth it for many people at first. Well, if you would have just purchased the hardware and sat on it, did some mapping, accumulating some coins, then seeing, okay, now everyone wants to buy one. Is it worth it for me to map now, or should I just sell this thing for however much on eBay? I mean, these are the kind of options you have to think through navigating this course. And hopefully for many people, it was more of a learning experience than a feeling of missing out and say, screw crypto, it's a scam, I never win. But back to that whole thing, $50 a week, let's say, just average passive driving. Is it worth it? Well, that pays the gas bill for me after tax. That's my gas and maybe a little bit of maintenance. If I drive more, there's more. And I have to say, totally worth it in my case, from a personal standpoint.
Yeah. And the other question is, I mean, where do you think things can go? If you're a believer in the project, then I think the price of honey could go up a lot if we see a bull run. I mean, we saw that with helium.
Yeah.
Helium was sitting around like $2 for forever. And then all of a sudden it pumped up to like almost $60 in the last bull run. Things tend to get overvalued. So there's certainly upside. And I think that there's a big mix when it comes to drivers and Hivemapper, and really any deep end project. There are people that are going to cash out every week. And there are going to be people that are more speculatively holding for more upside in the long run. And some are doing a mix of both. I've done a mix of both, right? Like I'll be upfront. I did when the Coinbase listing happened and we got up to like 33 cents. I definitely took some profits. For one, I have to protect myself for taxes because, I've got a sizable fleet. I'm pulling in revenue. I'm in the US, we're taxed based on what we're earning at. So, I learned that the hard way with helium. You need to plan for your taxes. So, but I do think there's, with this MIP 15 thing, I have to say, like, I'm bullish because the fact that they're putting this out there, if you read between the lines, to me, I think it would suggest that they must have some decent sized contracts coming up, because this is going to make it very visible and transparent how much revenue is coming into the project.
Right.
Because you'll see what the token burn is and how much the total supply is decreasing every week. So I don't think they would throw this out there unless they had some meaningful revenue that was going to come through the door. And, Ariel said it several times, like they have a lot of potential customers under NDA. So, maybe they can't announce the name of customers, but this is a way that they can actually in a transparent way, show that sizable revenue is coming through the door. So that was my biggest takeaway from this. Because I don't think they would have put this out there if they didn't have something on the verge of coming through here.
When sorry, I was muted because my son's making a lot of noise. I think this is a good competitor to like for example, like Google Maps, right? With Google, thank you. With Google, it's a lot of the pictures are old, and a lot of companies, I'm still trying to understand this whole industry of like selling information, right? Because like, just like what benefit to some of the, and when you really try to understand like the core of why Hivemapper is successful, right? When you try to understand like, why do you need pictures of like this? Like what company buys pictures of this, right? When you dig deep enough, you find out that these industries have grown 5 to 10 times on average every year, right? It's the same thing with like AI and machine learning. Like that's going to grow for the next, oh my God, 20 years, right? And it's like, well, who's using all this stuff? Like what companies are using this? And I did some digging. I was going to do a video on this on my next Hivemapper video, but I'm waiting to hear back from Hivemapper on a couple things before I get started with that. And Joe, I'll talk to you about that later, but there's a lot of companies that buy into this. And the problem with Google is that Google uses old stuff and it's not updated as frequently. A lot of companies that were using Google didn't like it. And they were just forced to because that was the only player on the block. So now they come in like real estate companies and believe it or not, like foreign investors and contractors.
Yeah,
All use
municipalities.
this stuff. Yeah, municipalities
I
like
think that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
they all use this stuff, and there's an increase in its function and usability. So, or a real world use case. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. And that's what's going to give these DPIN projects a huge push. Like there's another project, what's it called, like GeoNet, like helping with weather and stuff, or what I think something has to do with weather. And then there's another one called Weather XM. I think the future of a lot of these things are going to be DPIN. I mean, why not? The cost is low, right? Like cloud computing cost is low. People don't have to build the giant infrastructures anymore. And I think players like Google, IBM, and all these other people, they're going to have a hard time catching up. But there's a huge industry for this.
I do want to elaborate on that point, Hawk. The one thing I want to point out, there's a question in the comment section. Is there a place to see what tier your mount is, your mount rating? 100 Air says only on iOS, but if you're to go to your app and click the gear on the bottom right, you can see right next to where my finger is there, I got a 4 out of 4, but it'll show you your mount rating.
Really?
I wish I could display that
I
better.
didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
That's pretty new. It's not out on Android yet, but it will be. So I think it's nice. My question is, how often is that going to update?
It's every week.
It's every week.
So,
Okay.
from what I understand, based on reading in the Discord, the mount ratings are done by the AI trainers themselves, but only the highest tier trainers. So if you've been someone who's been working on those AI trainers for quite some time, you worked your way up the ranks, there's one thing you can consistently do, and it takes an average of 10 different pictures from a given wallet and dash cam to come up with your mount rating. So it's only, as it said, the mount rating resets weekly. So if you get a bad rating, you have an opportunity to fix it the next week.
Right.
But one thing I did want to ask you about, Hawk, and this is a general pet peeve of mine. You know, I do. Of course, always eating on stream.
That's the only time I get to sit down.
So,
go ahead.
you know, I know. So you're from a proof of work background. You're used to the whole GPU, CPU mining game, and then when you get around the FPGAs, ASIC sort of deal on the blockchain, I see a lot of moaning about it's proprietary hardware. If it doesn't work out for this project, it's just a brick. You really can't repurpose it. What's your whole thoughts on that?
Oh man, I mean, like, you know, with DPIN, I think you're going to get that majority of the time.
Yeah.
Right. I can't take a demo, reprogram it, and use it for something else. Can't take a Hivemapper. I mean, actually, you're probably better. Okay, let's back up. Let me just back pedal for a second. No one's taken apart a Hivemapper and seen if they can repurpose it yet. I don't even know what's in the Hivemapper. I don't know if it's a Pi. I don't know what it is, what's being used in it. So
Pi compute module board.
Is it proprietary, or can we really? I mean, if someone takes it apart, you could probably figure it out.
You could figure out what other things you can do with it. I mean,
I'm sure you can.
Reprogram it, but are most of the people going to do it? No.
Probably
are you going to be able to slap it right onto another project? Not unless we see something else come along similar to Hivemapper.
It's like a lot of people ask me this question, and they ask me the same thing that you're talking about, was what can we? Well, okay, so if this doesn't work out, what do I do with this camera? Well, I mean, if GeoNet works out, what are you going to do with the little satellite like saucer that you have? I mean,
yeah.
What are you going to do when Helium didn't? Same thing with Helium when everybody was getting the antennas and stuff. Like, what were you going to do with that stuff? But a lot of that stuff was repurposed too.
Elaborate on that real quick. Both GeoNet and Helium devices, there have been other projects that come along that are essentially with the same goals, the same hardware that you can repurpose those for. There are some people dual mining GeoNet onto Honeycomb and RTK, which are essentially looking for the same. They have the same end result in mind, the GNSS data.
Yeah.
So there is a possibility that another project comes along, says, "Hey, we think we can do it better than Hivemapper does," and bring your hardware over.
Yeah, I mean,
there's that possibility. But go ahead.
I look at it like this again. Like, you're gambling to get into the project, right? Like it is. It's a shot, and like it's only gambling if you lose. It's a strategy if you win. Okay, so you're gambling to get into the project. You got to purchase this camera to do it. If you're worried about that, don't get involved.
Yeah,
I'm just being honest. Like, if you're worried about that, don't get involved. Don't stress yourself out, because then you're gonna have this hardware that doesn't work. That's this whole thing with crypto and proof of work and mining and DPIN. Like, there's a cost, there's a price of doing business, and sometimes you lose. Like, I bought a helium miner, an HNT, was it an HM? I don't remember the gold one. What was the gold one called? Gold spot?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I had that, right? Got into it, didn't like it, didn't know what to do with it. I had a video where I turned it into a flux node, right? That's a small example of how you can repurpose stuff, right? So,
yeah. But
with these cameras, nobody knows. But I was prepared to lose that money. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Like, I bought this, I was prepared to lose it because I was like, oh, well, there's at the time I paid $585 for it. It was ridiculous. And they even went higher than that. Then I got scammed on a Bobcat. That happened once. That sucked. And that was like $2,000 in ETH. And it was, I mean,
yeah.
You just got to be prepared. Like, when I lost that money, I was like, all right, this is crypto. I lost it. It is what it is. You really have to be prepared to lose. Like, when people get into ASIC mining, like, I have a hosting facility, right? We have, hundreds and hundreds of ASICs. And I tell people, hey, they say, hey, I want to buy an S19 or I want a Bitcoin mine. I'm like, all right, cool. First question, you okay with losing $1,800? No, I don't want to lose $1,800. Okay, well, there's a possibility that it could not work and you could lose. Are you prepared for that? Well, no, not really. Then don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's kind of like not the best answer to give, but it really is just me being cut and dry. Like, if
it's
you're
honest.
scared, it's honest, and it's scared money doesn't make any money. If you really want to try it, try it. There's people who lose millions in investments.
And I think what's, there's a part of this that for us is really fun. It's the thrill of the chase. But same thing with what people do on the proof of work side. You have something similar on the DePIN side where you have to pivot and stick. When you see these opportunities come up, the opportunity in DePIN is usually geographically significant in a lot of cases. You find out in Hivemapper where's the best place to earn when you drive. With Helium, what's the best location to earn and to optimize your gateway. With proof of work on GPUs, it's like, what are we spec mining that it could be very profitable if you hold for 6 months, or what is the most profitable right now? And I know you guys are always tuning and changing what you're mining at any given time. And to me, like, I feel that's the fun of the game. But for many people, they feel like that's the ass pain of the game.
Hawk, have you looked at IONET at all with your GPUs?
No.
I'm more.
Yeah, you have. I brought it up to you on the stream.
Yeah, I'm more bullish on that project than any DePIN I've ever.
The one you called an arms race. Remember that stream?
Wait a minute. What's it called?
IO.net.
IO.net, dude. They're already the largest decentralized GPU aggregator in the world. They have over 500,000 GPUs in their platform. But they renders partnered with them. Filecoin, Gaming.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry, Joe. Sorry to cut you off. Yes, I did look into this. Yes. So I haven't applied anything yet, but I should do a video on this one.
Yeah, I'm working on one right now. Their token launches on April 28th, but you can, if you participate right now, you can get an airdrop when it launches. But man, I think it's gonna be the biggest DePIN we've seen.
Really?
Yeah, because so basically they can do something called clustering for cloud compute, where they can take GPUs from different geographical locations and have them communicate and form like super compute clouds.
Mhm.
And no one else in crypto can do that right now in cloud compute. So that's why Render is onboarded onto their platform. Gaiman's another one. And they have a huge partnership coming up with this company called Anyscale that ChatGPT and all the Web 2 players use. And they're going to be listed as a cloud compute option on that platform too. So I think it's going to be absolutely massive.
They need infrastructure, I assume. Like they need people on their network. Or do they have their own, or do they need people to deploy?
Yeah, they already have 500,000 GPUs.
That's insane.
Yeah, their goal is to get to 1 million. So they're working with independent data servers. They're also working with obviously crypto projects and then consumer GPUs like gamers. But I think it's going to be absolutely massive because no one else can do clustering. I mean, so basically every decentralized cloud compute project is going to have to use their platform if they really want to get involved in AI, because to train AI models that are sophisticated or inference large models, you have to be able to cluster. Right. So I'm incredibly bullish on IONET.
Have you? And I'm just asking. I recently did an interview with one of the people that work at It's a friend of mine. His name is Yeti. He works with Dynex. Have you had a chance to even look into Dynex or what Flux is doing?
No, I haven't taken a deep dive. No.
Take a deep dive, or maybe just watch the interview that I had. It's 30 minutes long, but he kind of goes into like what they're doing. And I asked some hard questions, and it's interesting. Dynex is a little different from AI. They're just doing a giant supercomputer where they cluster GPUs on the blockchain. Don't ask me to I can't even talk specifics.
Yeah, that's something that Brad, we'll both have to do a deep dive into that, because we do have the opportunity to interview Yeti coming up here. So nice. I think that'll be you, myself, and Chris going to do an interview.
Yeti's great. He'll always come on a live stream and talk. He's very open and open to the community. But Flux is claiming to do the same thing. They really want to do like a real proof of useful work where they want to do AI and stuff like that. I think there is an arms race with this. Like I mentioned it in a live stream when Joe told me about this project. Sorry, Joe, I didn't remember right away because I had to see the webpage to remember. I'm like, oh, I remember this. There's a lot of people that are racing into this right now. So, one of my friends, Mr. GPU Risers, he always says that, it's just like, who's building a better mousetrap, right? Well, my response to all this is nobody's caught the mouse yet when it comes to these, decentralized cloud compute stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For AI. And it really is an arms race. And I want to see exactly who's going to come out on top. Because like Render, like I was looking at Render, right? Like you can actually deploy on Render. Mm-hmm. But you need a sizable farm, and you have to have certain parameters, RunPod. I don't know if you looked at RunPod or like Vast AI, right? These guys, I mean, they're not really machine learning; they're just rig rental services, more or less. And there's a lot of projects and people trying to do this. Like Chlor AI right now has got a marketplace that they launched, right? And how they score their units and stuff. It's just huge. Like, what was the other one? Akash Network?
Akash and Nasana is another one. I found Nasana like it was a $2 million market cap. Right. And that thing's just gone crazy.
It's insane, the demand though. When you really look at this, like there are millions of GPUs on these platforms combined. Like, mm-hmm. and there's such a high demand for all this stuff. And it's really fascinating to me that it's I'm like, who's using all this compute? Well, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of new startup companies don't want to go invest in hardware. It's cheaper for them to rent the compute. Yeah. And that's really where we're going. Like everything's going to be cloud-based. I feel like I had a buddy of mine tell me that you're just going to get a computer one day and it's just going to be a monitor and it's a thin computer and everything's going to operate from the cloud.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly where like he feels it's going. So.
And a lot of companies already are. I mean, that's where these AI startups and, even ChatGPT costs $700,000 a day to run ChatGPT. And they're all using AWS or Google Cloud or Azure, and they're buying up all the supply from NVIDIA. So being able to repurpose these existing GPUs that are sitting idle is going to be massive. So I'll look into those other projects too. I mean,
just take a look at it. I mean, everyone's doing something a little different. Like at Terra right now, we have a data center. We have baseline compute. I have about 30, 40 90s running right now, and we've got another 30 coming in. And we're planning on deploying 300 by the end of the year. So that's And right now they're on I can't share what platform they're on for obvious reasons, but they're on a private platform where they're just constantly rented. And I'm like, it's mind boggling to me. I'm like, what are you using this for? And this platform in specific does large language models and machine learning stuff. They don't allow like crypto miners on their network or anything like that, like Vast AI does. But yeah, it's just insane. Like I don't know what these people are using it for, but hey, you know what I mean? It's a thriving industry. And I think personally, and I got to say this because I saw this quote the other day. Everybody's afraid that AI and machine learning is going to really take, I know we're kind of moving away from Hivemapper for a second, but everybody's afraid that AI machine learning is going to replace their jobs. Actually, let me rephrase this for you. And I saw this on Twitter and I can't remember who said it, but it's not AI going to replace your jobs. It's human beings that use AI that will replace the jobs of people who don't want to adopt this kind of stuff. So you really got to get with the times. And, you know, you can kind of throw this in, like even Hivemapper is using a machine learning mechanism, right? They're probably renting the cloud compute to help with the entire mapping of their system.
Yeah.
So like there's huge potential for all of these things to go like crazy.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see. Okay, rant over.
To that point, though, getting back to Hivemapper. Oh, sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're absolutely right. I mean, their AWS bill is probably one of the biggest operational costs right now for a lot of these companies. So that's why they're trying to move as much compute to the dash cam as possible. And we're seeing them really push the limits on the HTC. And I'm curious, just getting back to Hivemapper, you know, there's been some questions, people saying that they ordered in January. Should they switch over to the B or not? And
didn't they do that automatically? I'm sorry. Didn't they do that automatically for some people?
Only with the HDCS.
Yeah,
for
the S. So basically, my thought is this, and this is what I've done, and this is what I'll just say this is what I've done. You have to decide for yourself. But any orders that I had in December, I've kept on the HTC. Okay, I've kept on the HTC because if you look at their updated delivery dates, they only go up to, I think, December 29th. After that, now it's unknown. Okay, so to me, they're already pushing out at the end of December to July. To me, they're going to try to push people over to the B, and they're going to continue pushing the limits of these dash cams, right? So it's at a certain point, the HTC is no longer going to be viable. Now they have to support. I mean, technically, they have to support it for a year because it's under warranty for a year, but that doesn't mean they can't keep pushing the limits to where these things start to eventually die, and then you're forced with the decision, hey, do I want to replace it with a B or not, when you have a warranty claim. And I think that's where this is going. So again, if I ordered in December and I know I have a delivery date coming up, you know, July or sooner, I'm sticking with the HTC.
Right.
If I'm after that order date and I don't know when it's going to come, I would, you know, I personally switched over to the B for those later orders because, you know, like for instance, I'm setting up 20 dash cams today. I have, you know, 6 months to really, you know, earn rewards with those HTCs. But I do think, you know, once those Bs start to ship, they're going to want to very quickly transition over to only manufacturing one camera. And they're going to continue to push the limits more and more, because where this project is going with the ML side of things is they want to eventually have a product that's real time for consumers to buy.
Right.
So if they can process the imagery at the point of, you know, collecting the data, and you're not going to have these super long delays to process it with the newer hardware, I think eventually they want consumers to be able to tap into that imagery right away. And that's their goal here. And that's where I think if they can make it happen, then I think they can really bring on a lot of consumers. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, you know, what I encourage a lot of people, you know, I'm going to elaborate on this comment here from 100 Air, and I want to get both of your takes on it because both of you are doing this full time in one way or another. But I tell people, look, if you're getting into this, you know, get in waist deep, chest deep. It doesn't have to be your day job. Keep your day job, but Stuff like you want to learn how AI ML works, hit the AI and ML trainers, read about it, read what's taking place in the Discord, what people are writing out. You're going to learn, some layers deep into how it works. You can always do coding on the side. You could play with the API. There's a lot of interesting stuff that you learn just digging into these projects in one form or another. But it's more than baseline earnings. What I always encourage people to do, figure out how it works, optimize for it. Like an example, I've worked as a network engineer 11 years now. And when Helium and the other LoRaWAN projects came out, I really got into it. That's what drove me to truly, truly learn the RF theory in depth. I do wireless networking on a daily basis for large venues, more with the Wi-Fi 6 type of wireless. But regardless, diving into that wireless theory and seeing how this stuff works in different areas of the world, how the different modulations work, LoRaWAN, IoT, it actually helped my skill set quite a bit. And learning Linux on top of that with the Raspberry Pis and small board computers and single board computers, I should say. Very interesting stuff. But 100 here writes, I wish I could quit my job and hit this ecosystem full nuts, but I have 6 more years till retirement. What are your guys' takes on that? Because I know Hawk, you do this as a living running Terra, and Brad, he's now full time for some months running his fleets.
I think the job markets are going to change in the next decade. I think a lot of people are going to be falling into projects like this, and they're going to become to the point where they're profitable for people to live off of. I mean, with the pandemic, we saw a shift and change of like how companies were operating to survive, which, in hindsight, from a business perspective, the pandemic gave companies something that they've never experienced. It forced them to adjust and learn how to survive. And I really think outside of that, which, don't get me wrong, it was a terrible time, but for businesses, they had to adjust to stay open. And I think what that did was, I think that's what was the catalyst for a lot of DPIN projects starting to really come out. I really do think that's what it was. And when you think about it from this perspective, I think more and more people and more companies are going to start working towards projects and structuring their businesses like this, because honestly, you get a robust network. You really do. The cost is relatively low. Okay. And you can include people around the world. And instead of hiring 500,000 people or however many people that you need to run a major corporation, you could just incentivize people to do it themselves. Right. And I really do think that this is probably going to be the future of the American jobs market, or maybe the worldwide jobs market, where AI and, people working from, like, I work from home. Like, I don't need to, go to an office or anything, but then again, I run my own company, but that's going to be a huge thing moving forward. I think, companies like, listen, if Hivemapper gets enough adoption and the demand goes crazy, you could probably make a supplemental income just driving around mapping your area, depending on what it is. And I think projects are going to move, companies are going to move in that, they're going to move in that direction. It's just what it is. Like, people will put their GPUs on, like IO.net and rig rental services. They'll make money doing that. I think the world is kind of shifting, you know what I mean? And we're seeing a huge turn when it comes to it. I think really it all came out of the birth of the pandemic. I think the pandemic, I think it was moving in that direction. Don't get me wrong, but I think after the pandemic, companies had to adjust, and I think that's really what is driving a lot of it now, because a lot of companies failed. I watched a lot of companies go down. Especially like restaurants and stuff. A lot of the companies went down, and people had to reinvent themselves, and why go back to the way it was? God forbid something else happens, that they make themselves bulletproof. You know what I mean? So, and there's a bunch of benefits to operating it. Like Hivemapper, like tomorrow, if like something happened with Hivemapper, their network is still up, and there's still people that out there doing their bit, doing their work. Like, they probably don't have any employees that run around and that they hire specifically for Hivemapping. Why do you have to do that? Put the project in crypto, have people earn the rewards. tie it to what the company is doing, and there you go. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's just my opinion. I mean,
Yeah. No, I
Thanks,
think
Chris.
you're right. I mean, for me, yeah, the last like 3.5 years, it's been a grind, right? I had a very demanding full-time job, but also was, looking back 3 years ago, I was like on rooftops on freaking work meetings, setting up helium antennas, man. Like, staying up to like midnight, putting together outdoor enclosures and stuff. Like it was definitely a grind. And then, getting my fleet to where it's at was a lot of work too, because in the early stages, honey wasn't worth anything and no one knew what this project was going to do. So convincing people to join my fleet was and keep them engaged was really difficult. Demo is a lot more passive. So that was a lot easier, I think, to get those deployed. But I would say if you're looking to go full-time in crypto, there's a definite risk because, you have market cycles. You can go from making 15 grand a week to 1,500 a week like that. You know what I mean? So, I would say having I have other investments, right? I have businesses in real estate where I have other income coming in as well. But it finally got to a point, after I was grinding really 2 full-time jobs that 3 weeks ago, I was able to leave my day job and go full-time on this stuff. But, and I'm hoping that I can stick with that. It's going well, but it was a grind to get to that point for sure. And I'm not it's not all crypto as my income. I have other forms of income as well. So, I think you can make a lot of money in bull runs if you play it right.
Of course.
In deep in projects, but also just looking at investments. I think it's, for me, I'm spending as much time as I possibly can every day to research this space because I think there's a huge opportunity here. And as more money comes into crypto, there's going to be less and less upside as things level out over time. So I think this upcoming bull run, hopefully it happens, you can do very well with it. And I think those opportunities over time will decrease, but there's always opportunities out there, man. And like to your point, Hawk, like with the emergence of AI, like if you embrace new technology and you're doing something, if you're looking one way and everyone else is looking the other way,
right.
And you're right, that's where you make it big.
So pure example of this, we recently had a member of our community who recently passed away. But what was another friend of mine was talking about, he was huge into Helium Mobile, right? And he put a post that said, I think he put a post and said it was like over like $100,000 he made in Helium Mobile, right? And he, on the bottom of the post, he said, "Everybody laughed at me." ... Mm-hmm. He it was like a moment where like a few people were like, "Well, I'll never laugh at you again." Like, you know what I mean? Like it was like one of those moments. And rest in peace to Mr. Oval Bortech. But it's been rough. He recently passed away, so thoughts and prayers with his family.
He was a member of the Hivemapper community, and he did some posts on Hivemapper. So prayers are with him.
Yeah, he unfortunate, very unfortunate. But anyway, he did have a post where he talked about Helium Mobile. So
I want to elaborate on that real quick with the Helium Mobile. And Chris says Joe laughs when I talk about Helium Mobile. Was it profitable? Yes. It was very profitable, especially those who were doing the speculative type of mining, holding and, waiting until a good price point to sell at. And for that, I cannot laugh at people. And that's why for any project, no matter how silly or how much I disagree with it, example being like Fry, the network of networks of all data that they'll never use, whatever. Yeah, should you mine it? Probably. If you're not putting yourself at risk, because it's going to make money. That's it. I mean, that's what most people are here for, is to make the money. Right. I encourage people to research before they set up certain devices, because not all these some of these do come at a personal, let's say, security, cybersecurity risk. But regardless, the Helium Mobile Network, the CBRS point, is a effing joke, in my opinion.
I know,
The
I know,
hardware.
Joe loves
Oh yeah.
helium. I know he's
Oh,
like him and the
let's
helium
go.
guys grab beers every weekend. He just loves helium.
Yeah, apparently I got invited to the like Helium Chicago stuff that's going on in a couple weeks here. I'm not going. I don't know if you are, Brad, but that's I don't need to be a part of any public spectacles. Anyways, the whole point being like that is the whole their internal routing, the hardware that they're using, these supposed partnerships, like it's all been a disaster. But hey, it's in crypto. We got this very volatile market cycles that run off of sugar highs. You got all this
Right.
FOMO inbound. I mean, yeah, you would have made a lot of money if you had one of those set up. Regardless, Oh, also you can game it. You can run as much data over your own CBRS gateway if you have a Helium mobile plan and run up the fees and get paid. So, like, yeah, does this stuff make sense to do? Even though to the actual cellular companies, they like laugh and piss on their heads. Yeah.
I posted something on Twitter a couple days ago where the chief of marketing from Hivemapper responded to me, and I said it was from a Reddit post about like how everybody like it just seems like there's a huge changing of the guard in Hivemapper, and a lot of people are associating this with maybe there's a new company coming in to buy them out or whatever the case may be. But one guy commented on it. I think it set off their CMO, which says it looks like the Helium guys are effing up another company, and I personally don't think that's what's happening. But it is kind of weird to see like a changing of the guard like right now, like when they're at the peak of what they're doing, and those guys have brought them up to where they are, so to speak. And
well,
I wonder what the, I really wonder what's going on. There's something going on in the background. They may be priming for a purchase, or maybe their company's going in a different direction and they want to do something different. But I tell you what, I will say this. I have the dash cam and the dash cam S. The dash cam S never did what it was supposed to do. It never acted as a recorder. I didn't even know how to operate it. Like it was just a fancy camera. The B, whoever came up with the B, it really does fix the problems that the first two had, right? So they should have did that from Jump Street, but I get it. Hindsight 2010, nobody knows, but you always improve as you go. But I think the B is definitely a good buy.
Yeah, it's more of I'll say what you just pointed out there, the Helium guys screwing up another company. That has always been one of my concerns with how many, where some of the venture capital is coming from, and some of the advisors they take their cues from. It's always been a massive concern of mine that Helium would have their paws in this project, but I've seen not nearly as much as I expected. And from the employees that I've talked to, they've always said Helium was the learning experience for us. We're not trying to repeat that. And I'll tell you one thing that Hivemapper has exposed is the way their development pipeline has worked out. I mean, it's way more efficient than anything we've ever seen from Helium. They are able to make those quick pivots and do it in a manner that is meaningful, that produces results. And I think Ariel is a very headstrong person. He's very opinionated. I can appreciate it. I think he's doing what's right for Hivemapper, regardless if you agree with his opinions or not, or what he believes is right. We'll see. I know he has a certain culture that he wants to see coming from the Hivemapper Inc. and Hivemapper Foundation. I think that's the reason behind some of these changes. And there's always a massive learning experience from the initial product to what you find out customers are going to use this data for and how it should operate. And that's what we're seeing, the change from the HGC, HGCS to the B.
Yeah. I hope they don't change their the way that they've treated the content creators, because it looks like there's a little bit of a pullback because like people like Chris Bagnell probably made them tons of money, like, and got them really introduced to the space. I mean, I was very low on that list, but I sold them at least a couple hundred. You know what I mean? Just off my YouTube channel. And then I asked about the new B and if we're going to push it, and they removed the promo codes. They removed Now they got one that you can get 75 free honey, which is like $5.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it just doesn't make any, like, the 10% off was selling their unit. So I wonder why. I hope they run another campaign, because we kind of like, I kind of feel like our community, like the crypto mining community, a lot of us, we like help build that company for them and help them get introduced. So I really hope they continue that relationship with us moving forward. So
going back to real quick, the helium situation, like I think we all learned a lot from helium, but also, if anything, I think it did do something major for the deep in space, in that it showed how quickly a deep in project can scale. And I think a lot of other deep in projects are learning from their mistakes for sure. I learned a lot from that project, some good, some bad. But like, looking at Hivemapper, I think it's also important for us to remember, when it comes to the hardware, like, it's a startup, man. Like, I think, I've worked for tech startups before, and things change, and they change quickly, and you make mistakes, and you have to push limits. And like, this is not a mature company. And I think it's important to keep that in mind and be a little bit patient sometimes when things don't go right. And in crypto in general, if you're coming in here thinking that you're going to be working with like an Apple, like that's not what this is, man. Like, you have to be able to roll with the punches and be ready for 50% corrections in the market, and be ready for hardware not to work perfectly. I mean, if that's not what you're interested in, then I wouldn't get involved in these projects.
Question, Bradley, for you. You said you do the fleet stuff, right?
Yeah.
How do you manage it from like an app perspective? Is it like a special app for the fleets that you can see all the cameras on, or how does that work?
There's not a ton of insight. I've actually put out a couple of tutorial videos that they pushed out in some blogs about how I manage my fleet. But really, it's, at the beginning, I look at the Explorer, although I don't know that Explorer is updating properly right now. But when I set up a dash cam with the driver, I make sure they're getting uploads at the very beginning, because sometimes it takes a little while to get the process down. But the major like hiccup for me, I guess, is the token splits, because I do a referral fee. So there's to answer your question, there's a fleet management tool that does an automated two-way split.
Right.
But having that third layer of the referral payment, I have to manually calculate that every week. And that's been a huge pain in the ass with this Solana congestion, man, because, I'm having to wait. I normally do it on, Thursday, and I'm having to wait until last week. I had to wait till Wednesday for everything to clear. And I'm getting, blown up from all my drivers like, hey, how come we haven't gotten paid yet? And I'm like, well, that, I have to kind of like send them screenshots of what's happening in Discord. Like, look, this Solana situation is a big problem. And a lot of people that aren't in crypto or aren't crypto people, they just think it's Hivemapper. Hivemapper's had their issues, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people don't draw the conclusion that Solana is causing a lot of these payment issues right now. So that's been the biggest headache in managing my fleet in the last couple of weeks, is just the firmware issues, getting calls all the time about images not uploading properly, and the payments being delayed. I think they're looking to build out a better dashboard. And where I see this going with the B, because it's going to be a lot more passive, is it's going to open the door for a lot of different types of fleets that you can't work with today. Because let's say you own like a shipping company, and you want to set up all the drivers in that shipping company. Well, today you have to have interaction with each individual driver to make sure they're uploading imagery.
Right.
If you are a business owner and you have a B that has, a cell plan, you can just stick it in the windshield. You don't have to involve the driver at that point.
That's honestly, like, it was such a major inconvenience, because like I use Apple CarPlay, right?
Yeah.
And in my BMW, and I have to turn it off because it requires a Wi-Fi signal. So I have to use, I know this is like a first world problem, but like it wouldn't work when I would drive around. So I used to have to like, I have another SUV that doesn't have it, and I have to like drive in, use that to go Hivemap at certain times, because it was just annoying. Like my phone kept hopping to my car and then to the Hivemapper and then to the car. Yeah. And I told a few, like Alan and a few of the guys, like, hey, this is a problem. Like, why do you require Wi-Fi? Why can't we just connect to it like just Bluetooth? or whatever. And then I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah, because Bluetooth doesn't have high enough bandwidth to transfer that type of imagery.
I don't know.
That's where I see this going, though.
And I asked Joe.
I totally understand that, man, because especially at the very beginning stages, you had to have like the app open at all times to connect to the dash cam. I mean, it was horrible at the beginning back in like December of 2022.
It was a lot because I remember like I was one of the first content creators to do a video on it, and besides Joe and everybody else, like in our group here in Misfit Mining, and I remember everyone's asking me like, "Yo, why is the camera angled so high? Like, what are you trying to like map the moon?" I'm like, "No, dude, it's the way the camera is." Like, like we had to like set it up a certain way, and I did it I had a video in my car about it. Listen, I think it's a great project. I just hope it just doesn't. I hope they're just whoever's steering the ship. I hope just doesn't run it into the dock. You know what I mean? Like so. I really like the project, and I think it's going to do well moving forward. I just hope they take care of the content creators, man, because we helped build that. I mean, this is going to sound a little selfish from our end, but we really did help them get that adoption that they needed. I mean, there was content creators that had millions and millions of views on Hivemapper from all our communities. And I'm not just saying me, I'm a very small fish, but like, just a lot of people who have millions of subs did all kinds of videos and stuff on this. So I really hope they do the right thing moving forward.
Hey, that's why I brought you guys in, because I knew you do well. And I tried to really roll out the red carpet for Hivemapper here. So
I tell you what, man, Chris Bagnell probably paid his student loans off with that whole thing. Like I saw the sheet and I was like, holy cow. This kid
did good.
He did really good.
I'm waiting for that honey. I'm excited.
We'll see what happens, because once they got all the pre-orders in, then they started taking away the discount codes, because they're like, well, kind of like, we don't need you anymore type of deal. But
that's how I kind of felt. How I kind of felt like, oh, I mean, granted, we got paid. Don't get me wrong. We got paid. I got paid. We got compensated for what we did. It was fair, but like, keep the train going. Like, you guys really want people to keep doing it. Like, I had so many people on live streams like order them right on stream, like when I was with them, and I would see the email come through for the referral. And and a lot of people got involved that way. So why not why not continue that? You know what I mean?
Tell you what,
especially with a new product.
A little bit salty about is the discount codes were, I wasn't too happy with how that went over, where just anyone could create a discount code. So I was getting a lot of people who were trying to usurp my codes in the comments. I had to constantly watch my comments to see, some dick. It wasn't trying to say, hey, use my code instead. Screw the content.
Yeah.
And, you have a lot of mods, and you have content creators who are really putting in the time to make sure people are educated, that they're doing what's best for themselves. And when it comes to which one they should order, they know what they need to before that order. Like, I wish it would have been restricted to certain people who had proven themselves and their dedication to Hivemapper, but what are you going to do? Right.
For
I mean,
sure.
Granted, I get. Sorry, Brad.
No, you're good.
But I get it. Like, at that point, Joe, they're really just trying to. They're just going to whore themselves out for sales. Like, they got to get the capital and they got to get the cash flow, right? And that's huge to, like, even at Terra. Like, Terra, we have a partner who's an investor as well. He's really taking Terra to the next level. But like, in the beginning, we really had to cut, deals and, things to we needed that cash flow coming in. A lot of startups, they need that. So I could understand like how, like, you got to get that going. So I was like, oh, promo code. You want a promo code? 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 Man, hey man, everybody get promo codes, sell it to your mom. Like, tell your mom to buy one. Like, it's just kind of like was that attitude. Now it's like, now they're acting like Apple. Like, okay guys, we'll release the iPhone 72 when we're ready. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so,
Yeah, but it is true. I mean, there are people with like guys with like one Twitter follower like spamming their promo code on every single Hivemapper post. Dude, I'm like, what is going on, man? You
know what I did, which was actually worked out really good for me, aside from like having it put at the business and telling Uber drivers, which got me a lot of sales. But I put it. They had Facebook posts, and I would just comment, use Hawk10 for 10% off, and it would get like 100 likes. And I would just see referral orders come from that. And Hivemapper never removed it. It was on their Facebook post. I was like, all right, cool. They're playing ball. So you do what you can when you can, I guess.
Yep.
So
dog eat dog.
So there's I've been thinking about this, like looking forward, what they need to do and where I think this is going to go as far as fleets go with the B. So I think they need to find a way to make it through a bear market and kind of reduce their exposure to the crypto market cycles. And with the B, going back to being able to get into those different types of fleets, I foresee them adding some other type of value add service for business owners that have fleets. Like maybe it's accident detection where they record the incident, something like that, because those are things that business owners are already paying for with fleet management. So if they can add that as an additional service for business owners, now all of a sudden, you might be able to bring on fleets that don't even care about the crypto aspect and the rewards, but there's actually functionality for them on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And those are the types of drivers you want, because Hivemapper really, it's not going to move the needle for, a soccer mom that's driving to practice, a few days a week. Like they need people that are on the road all day, every day, and remapping. And those are the types of drivers they need. And those fleets, if they can target them and really bring them on in a meaningful way, that the crypto is secondary, and get imagery that way. I think that's how they make it through a bear market, and really push this to the next level. And the B is going to be necessary for that. So I'm curious to see if that's what they're thinking, or how they go about that moving forward.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to watch what they do and how they do it, and hopefully, like I said, it's not like one of these just like hype train projects where it goes good and then it's cash grabbing and everybody's out. So you see a lot of that in crypto. Until the market gets a little bit more regulated, which I got this love-hate relationship with regulation, because I feel like we need it, but the minute you give it, they're going to take a lot more than you gave. So I don't know. But anyway, so
gentlemen, we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. All 25 live viewers, I appreciate you all watching. We're going to wrap it up here. I know some of us have to run shortly. Yep. So as always, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Brad, Hawk, myself. All links in the description. Share within the Hivemapper Telegram groups, Facebook groups, the community. And we'll see you 2 weeks from now, as every other Sunday. So next time will be the 28th at noon Eastern Time, United States. Thank you for being here with us. We're going to end the stream there.
Take care, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good day. Bye.
Thanks, guys.